Hi there, folk. We're going to be looking at calculations to do with volume and capacity. Now, in our previous section, in the previous episode, we looked at volume and capacity as well, but we just looked at the basics and fundamentals of it. In fact, we looked at very basic examples. What we're going to be doing in this segment is looking at the more complicated kind of questions that we could get with volume and capacity. Before we start looking at those examples, let's just remind ourselves about what the difference is between capacity and volume. So volume is the space taken by an object, while capacity refers to the amount of the substance, like a liquid or gas that a container can hold. Volume is measured in cubic units, while capacity is measured in other units, such as liters and gallons. And please understand that the cubic unit, we could be talking about millimeters cubed, centimeters cubed, meters cubed, and even kilometers cubed. All right, let's have a look at our first example. And we're going to start off relatively easy, and then we're going to build to a phenomenal, tough question. Calculate how many millimeters of milk she will need if 1 cup is 250 mils. So the question is, Tundi is baking cupcakes, and her recipe requires 1 1/3 cup of milk. So I've got 1 1/3, and I'm going to multiply that by 250 mils. Now, on my calculator, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, right, I have 1 1/3 cups of milk, and I'm going to multiply that by 250 mils. And I land up then with 333,33. So 333,33 mils of milk. My next one. If the recipe is for 20 cupcakes, calculate the amount of milk required to bake 30 cupcakes. So again, let's just have a look here. We need 1 1/3 cups. So I'm going to say, all right, so 1 1/3 cups was for 20 cupcakes. But I don't want 20 cupcakes, I want 30 cupcakes. Now, before I can work out how much milk is required for 30, let's try and figure out how much milk is required for 1 cupcake. Because if I get 1, it's easy to make 20 into 1, and it's easy to make 1 into 30. To make 20 into 1, I divide by 20. Why? Because 20 divided by 20 gives me 1. And what I do on one side of an equation, I've got to do on the other side. So I'm going to say, right, if I've divided this side by 20, I'm going to do the exact same thing here. 1 1/3 divided by 20. Then, how do I get 1 to 30? I times that by 30, and I'm going to do the exact same thing this side. I've got 1 1/3 divided by 20, and then multiply it by 30. So, let's see how many cups of milk I'm going to require. Calculator is going to do the job for me because this is a lot of deep maths. So, I have 1 1/3 cups. I'm going to divide it by 20, divide that by 20, and then multiply it by 30. And my answer is 2 cups. So I need 2 cups of milk. Now, folk, each cup, even though we've worked out cups, the answer wants in liters. Hey? Now, I know that each cup is equal to what? Well, 1 cup's 250 mils, so 2 cups must be 500 mils. So I've got 500 milliliters of milk that I need. But I want the answer in liters. So I'm going to divide that by 1,000, and I'm going to get half a liter of milk is required if I want to make 30 cupcakes. Now, moving on, milk is sold in the bottles milk is sold in bottles of 1 liter, and every liter costs R8.50 at the local store. Calculate the amount of money Tundi will need to spend on milk to make 30 cupcakes. So in making 30 cupcakes, we've already said, hold on, she needs half a liter. So if I've got half a liter, I'm going to say I only need half the liter. Every liter cost 8 Rand 50, okay? And so it's going to be a half times 8 Rand 50, which is 4 Rand 25. But I have a problem. And my problem is this, folks, that milk is going to only be sold in bottles of 1 liter. So in the shop that I go to, I say, listen, guys, I need to buy milk. And they say, how much milk do you want? And I say, I need half a liter. And they say, eish, that's a problem, eh? Because we only sell our milk in 1 liter bottles. So I've got to buy a whole liter. So for this, even though I need half a liter, because it's only sold in bottles of 1 liters, I've got to buy a whole liter. So my milk is going to land up costing me 8 Rand 50 and not 4 Rand 25 as we would presume the case to be. My next example. Tabiso decides to sell homemade lemonade. He has made 5 liters of lemonade to sell at the local school's rugby tournament. Tabiso will be selling his lemonade in 250 ml plastic cups. Calculate the number of cups of lemonade he will need or will be able to sell. Okay, so he's got 5 liters and we want to see how many times 250 mils will go into this. Now, folk, we've got a problem, and we've discussed this problem before. I've got liters and I've got milliliters. I cannot have different units when I'm dividing or multiplying or adding or subtracting. Get the units to be the same. So either I'm going to change this 5 liters into milliliters, or I'm going to change the 250 milliliters into liters. I think I'm going to go the milliliter route. So 5 liters, multiply that by 1,000, and that's going to give me 5,000 milliliters. I'm going to divide that by 250 mils, and my calculator is going to do it for me. 5,000, divide that by 250, and we get 20 cups. Okay, it's a shame. He can only sell 20 cups of lemonade. Let's see what he does with this. So if he sells the lemonade at 5 Rand a cup, how much money will he make from the lemonade? So he's selling 20 cups, each cup for 5 Rand, 20 times 5, this O is making 100 Rand. But that's obviously not profit because he needed to make the lemonade, so he needed to buy ingredients. Now this gets interesting. Because what this says, if it cost Tabiso 120 Rand to make the lemonade, how many cups would he need to sell at 5 Rand each before he's made his money back? Well, 120 Rand, we're going to divide that by 5 Rand, and our calculator is going to give us an interesting answer. 120 divided by 5 equals 24. He's got to sell 24 cups of lemonade to break even. In other words, to get to the point where he can start making a profit. This is hugely problematic. Why? Because he can only get 20 cups out of that jug. So if he can only get 20 cups out, but he's got to sell 24 cups before he breaks even, this is running at a huge loss. We have a problem, Houston. Stop making your lemonade. Or make your lemonade, but sell it for more than 5 Rand per cup. Maybe you need to sell it for 10 Rand a cup. Now, we're going to come to a real, wow problem. This problem is deep, deep, deep. Okay, let's have a look at it. When baking one batch of cheese scones, the following recipe can be followed. We need 227 grams of cake flour, 1 cup of grated cheese, half a cup of butter, 4 teaspoons of baking powder, 2 eggs, and half a cup of milk. So that's what we need to bake our scones. Remember, we're making cheese scones. Oh, they are so good, especially when they come out the oven, hey? And they're hot, 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 hot. And then you take some butter and you put it on and it melts in. Oh, just so, in fact, you know what? I can't go. But I was just going to go and make myself cheese scones, but I'll do that later. All right, so here we go then. That's my recipe. Now, look at this table that I give. Determine the total cost of the ingredients that are needed to bake a batch of scones by completing the table. Right, now I just want to stress something here. In an exam, I don't think the examiners would ever give you a table like this with all these things to fill in. They probably only ask you for one or two things, and they might not ask it in a table form. They might ask it verbally. For example, how much would you spend on the flour? Okay, but what I'm going to do is, because there's so many different ways of calculating the costs, I thought I'd do all of this in one shot to show you the various ways of calculating costs. So let's have a look at it. So flour. I go off to a shop and I say, right, I want to buy flour. And my recipe actually stated that I needed 227 grams of flour. Now I go off to the local supermarket and I say, Hazard, I want to buy flour. And they say, cool, here we go, here's a nice bunch, give it to your wife. I say, no, I don't want that kind of flour. I want the flour to bake with. So they show me the aisle and I go down to that aisle and I say, uh-oh, I got a problem. They're selling flour in 1 kilogram packets. I don't want a kilogram. I only want 227 grams. But I've got to buy the kilogram. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make it my business to make cheese scones. So I'm just going to buy stuff and I'm going to make batch after batch after batch. So none of my ingredients are going to go to waste. Whatever I've got left over, I will use later on. I want to know the actual cost of baking one batch. The actual cost. Right? Not what did all the ingredients cost altogether, but how much did just 227 grams of flour cost? So let's have a look here. I've got 1 kilogram of flour and that cost R4.85. Okay? I want 227 kilograms. So I'm going to say, okay, I've got R4.85. And that R4.85 gave me a kilogram or 1,000 grams. So how much did 1 gram of flour cost me? So I'm going to say R4.85 divided by 1,000. That will give me 1 gram, but I don't want 1 gram. I want 227 grams. So I'm going to get an answer and then multiply that by 227 grams. So let's do that. Out comes the calculator and I say R4.85 and we're going to divide that by 1,000 grams. That means each gram cost me a very little bit of money. In fact, my calculator is saying, Ish, what on earth's going on here? 4.85 times 10 to the minus 3. But I want times 227 because I want 227 grams. And look what it gives me. R1.10. So this for one batch is going to cost me R1.10. Let's get a nice color out here that we can see. Cost R1.10. Okay. Now, cheese. We go to the store. I say, I want to buy grated cheese. They say, cool. We sell it in an amount, and in that amount, there is 2 cups worth of cheese. And I say, well, that's cool, but actually I only need 1 cup of cheese. So although I'm paying R8.60, all I'm going to do is take that R8.60 and I'm going to divide it by 2 because I only need 1 cup of cheese. And we know that R8.60 divided by 2 is going to give me R4.30. All right. Now, butter. And my recipe stated for butter, I need ½ a cup of butter. All right. Now, look at this. 1 cup of butter weighs 227 grams. So how much butter do I need? Well, I only need ½ a cup, not a whole cup. So I'm going to take this 227 and I'm going to divide it by 2 to get ½ a cup. So let's do that. We say 227 and I divide that by 2 and I get an answer then of 113.5 grams. So 113.5 grams. That's how much butter I need. go off to the shop and realize, they don't sell butter in 113.5 gram tubs. The best I can do is buy a 500 gram tub. And so on looking at 500 grams, I realize that it cost 8 Rand 60. So I've got 8 Rand 60, and I'm going to divide that by 500 grams so I can work out the cost of 1 gram. Then I can say, right, but I don't want 1 gram, I want 113.5 grams. So we're going to multiply that by 113.5, and that is going to give me my answer. So let's do that. Out comes the calculator again, and we say, cool, 8 Rand 60. We're dividing that now by 500, and then I'm going to multiply it by 113.5, and I get an answer of 1 Rand 95. So my butter costing me 1 Rand 95. Let me get another color pen here. 1 Rand 95. Interesting. Okay. Can you see how we are playing around? And remember, I always take the money and divide it by the gram so I can work out the cost of 1 gram. Now, next one. A 150 gram tin of baking powder costs 7 Rand 15. And for my baking powder, I'm told I want 4 teaspoons. Now, with 4 teaspoons, I know 1 teaspoon is 5 grams. So 4 teaspoons is going to be 5 grams times 4, which is 20 grams. I know I can buy a tin of 150 grams for 7 Rand 15. So let's do this. I've got 7 Rand 15. I'm going to divide it by 150 and then multiply that answer by 20 grams because I want 20 grams, not 1 gram. Okay, so out comes my calculator again, and I say I've got 7 Rand 15 cents. I'm going to divide that by 150 to get the cost of 1 gram, multiply it by 20 to get the cost of 20 grams, and I'll end up with an answer then of 95 cents. So 95 cents is what this is going to cost me. Cool. Now eggs. 1 dozen eggs cost 15 Rand. This recipe says I need 2 eggs. So I've got 15 Rand. I'm going to divide it by 12 to find the cost of 1 egg and then times it by 2 to get the cost of 2 eggs. So 15 Rand divided by 12 means each egg cost 1 Rand 25. Times it by 2, each egg now costs me 2 Rand 50. Okay, interesting, isn't it? The last one is tough stuff, people. So I want us to really focus here. This is going to be quite something to look at. Milk. Our recipe says that we need half a cup of milk. Okay. Half a cup, well, 1 cup is 250 mils, so half a cup is 125 mils. That is what I actually need. So what I'm going to do now is this. I go to the shop and it says, hey, 1 gallon of milk costs 32 Rand 85. Now, please understand, I buy gallons of milk when I'm in the United States. So I'm in America and I don't need a gallon of milk. I actually only need 125 mils. So if 1 gallon costs 32 Rand 85, I'm going to say 1 gallon costing me 32 Rand 85. 1 gallon we know is the same as 4.5 liters. So instead of 1 gallon, I can say 4.5 liters cost me 32 Rand and 85 cents. Now, let's change that to mils. I know 1 liter is 1,000 mils, so I've got 4,500 milliliters cost me 32 Rand 85. I don't want 4,500, I only want 125. So let's work out the cost of 1 milliliter. I'm going to say 32.85 Rand. Divide that now by 4,500 mils, and that will give me the cost of 1 mil. But I don't want 1 mil, I want 125 mils. So multiplying it by 125. And again, folk, my brain's too small to work this out. We need a bigger brain. So I get my calculator. 32.85, I'm going to divide that by 4,500 and I get a wacko answer. Multiply that by 125 and my answer then is 91 cents. So the cost of that milk is 91 cents. Now, what's the cost of making these muffins? Guys, quite simply, all I'm going to do is I'm going to add up all these figures. And I'm not going to do it for you. You can do that yourself. Say 1 Rand 10 plus 430 plus 195 plus 95 plus 250 plus 91. And we're going to get our answer over there. All right, good stuff. What have we done this lesson? In summary then, we've integrated finance with volume and capacity. Guys, I will see you after the break when we're going to start looking at the exciting world of perimeters. Chat soon.